a driver's license system that registers people who explicitly said they were not citizens is not something New Jerseyans should simply shrug off. This is one angry black MAGA general. Let me begin with something that should not be controversial. Every American citizen has a right to know that his or her vote will be counted alongside other lawful votes, and that nobody who is legally ineligible to vote will be allowed to cast one. That principle shouldn't belong to Republicans. It shouldn't belong to Democrats. It shouldn't belong to MAGA. It shouldn't belong to the far left or the right. It belongs to the American people. And that's precisely why the New Jersey Motor Vehicle Commission controversy deserves much more scrutiny than the phrase software error might suggest. According to Governor Mikey Sherrill's July 21st announcement, approximately 6,600 people who indicated that they were not U.S. citizens were nevertheless registered to vote between June 2023 and June 2024. The governor said fewer than 400 of these people were subsequently found to have voted. That's a serious failure. And I don't believe New Jerseyans should be told simply nothing to see here. It was a glitch. A glitch can be an explanation. It is not an accountability plan. Here's where I part company with the governor's framing. Governor Sherrill says she inherited the problem, ordered an investigation, began removing improperly registered people, and started placing the vendor involved or replacing the vendor involved. Fine, investigate it, replace the software, fix the database, hold negligent officials accountable. But don't confuse identifying a technical mechanism with answering the larger question. Who designed the system? Who tested it? Who was responsible for validating the information? Who monitored the system? When was the problem first discovered? Why did it apparently persist? Why weren't the erroneous registrations detected earlier? And most importantly, how many elections were affected? Those are legitimate questions. In fact, they're precisely the questions Congress has begun asking. A bipartisan House inquiry has sought information from New Jersey concerning how the registrations occurred and how the state verified eligibility. And there's another wrinkle that makes the just a software glitch explanation worth examining carefully. The technology vendor IDEMIA has disputed the state's characterization of the failure, saying that the information indicating that these individuals were not U.S. citizens was correctly recorded and transmitted, and that ultimate voter registration validations rested with New Jersey election authorities. So before anybody closes the book on this controversy, we need the complete record. Not partisan talking points, not Twitter arguments, not conspiracy theories, the record. And yes, non-citizen voting is a real problem. Here's another conversation Americans need to be mature enough to have. Non-citizen voting in federal elections is illegal. That isn't a MAGA talking point. That is federal law. And New Jersey's own U.S. Attorney's Office has brought several cases this year involving non-citizens accused of illegally voting in federal elections. In June, a New Jersey resident who was not a U.S. citizen pleaded guilty to illegally voting in a 2022 federal election. In May, federal prosecutors announced charges against 4 other New Jersey residents accused of registering and voting while allegedly knowing they were not citizens. And in July, another New Jersey resident was charged with illegally voting and making false statements during a citizenship application. Now, Let's be intellectually honest. These cases do not prove that widespread non-citizen voting exists. They prove something more basic. It can happen. And once we know that it can happen, the responsible question isn't how many people are doing it. The responsible question is what safeguards prevent it, and how do we know those safeguards are working? That's the conversation America needs. The real scandal is not that a machine made a mistake. Machines make mistakes. Humans make mistakes. Software makes mistakes. Government makes mistakes. The scandal is what happens when nobody catches the mistake. Think about the absurdity of the situation. A person goes to the MVC. The system asks, "Are you a United States citizen?" The person answers no. Yet, somehow, the information can still enter the voter registration pipeline. New Jersey's own explanation acknowledges precisely that sequence. That's not a philosophical debate. That's a system engineering problem. And election systems should be designed around one principle. When in doubt, protect the ballot. Not by preventing eligible citizens from voting, by preventing ineligible registrations from entering the system in the first place. This is where I disagree with the lawfare narrative and where I agree with the question behind it. I understand why people on my side suspect political motives. America has lived through years of increasingly aggressive political warfare. Investigations, indictments, civil litigations, counter investigations, congressional investigations, administrative ballots, political prosecutions, and competing accusations that the other side is weaponizing government. So when an election controversy appears, people naturally ask, is this connected to something bigger? That question is legitimate. But here's where I'm going to discipline my own political instincts. I cannot responsibly tell you that the New Jersey MVC incident was part of a coordinated lawfare plot to dethrone Donald Trump unless evidence establishes that connection. As of now, the public evidence I've found establishes a serious voter registration failure and competing explanations about how it happened. It does not establish a coordinated conspiracy connection connecting the MVC problem to a plot against Trump. That's an important distinction, because if we care about election integrity, we cannot demand evidence from Democrats while giving Republicans a free pass from the same standard. That's hypocrisy. And hypocrisy is terrible politics. But here's what I absolutely will demand. Investigate everything. Follow the data, follow the software, follow the contracts, follow the money, follow the decision makers, follow the chain of command, follow the timeline. And if somebody intentionally manipulated an election system, prosecute them. If somebody negligently administered it, hold them accountable. If it was genuinely a software failure, fix the software and explain exactly how it happened. The American people deserve all three possibilities to be investigated. Here's where I go bigger. And this brings me to the most controversial proposition in this column. I believe America should seriously consider federalizing the administration of federal elections. Not because I want Washington to decide who wins. Quite the opposite. I want a system where the rules for federal elections are consistent, auditable, and transparent across the country. Right now, election administration is highly decentralized. The U.S. Election Assistance Commission explains that states generally have chief election officials, while elections are usually administered at the county level. The procedures vary significantly from state to state. That creates a problem. If I fly from New Jersey to another state, I don't expect the security requirements at the airport to be completely different because the county has its own philosophy about aviation. Why should the basic security architecture of a federal election be radically different depending upon the state in which I live? The Constitution currently gives states a central role in administering congressional elections while also giving Congress authority to regulate the times, places, and manner of those elections. So my proposal would require serious constitutional and statutory work. I'm not pretending otherwise, but Congress already possesses significant authority over federal election procedures. The question is whether we should use that authority to establish a national election security framework. What would that look like? I'm not talking about Washington choosing winners. I'm talking about Washington establishing minimum standards. One national federal voter registration database. States could continue administering elections, but federal elections would be checked against a secure national system. 2, citizenship verification, not assumptions, not political promises verification. 3, real-time cross-checking. If someone tells the MVC I am not a U.S. citizen, that information should trigger an automatic eligibility barrier, not an invitation for the system to accidentally register the person. 4, independent audits. Election databases should undergo regular independent security and eligibility audits, not after a scandal, before one. 5, paper records. Every election system should maintain auditable records sufficient to reconstruct what happened. 6, public transparency. When major election system failure occurs, the public should not have to wait years to learn about it. 7, federal oversight of federal elections. States should continue conducting elections, but federal elections should have uniform federal scrutiny standards. This is not tyranny, that's accountability. But don't turn this into a voter suppression. And here is where I want to speak directly to Black America, because I know the history. I read the history. I know what happened when government decided that certain Americans weren't qualified enough, educated enough, or worthy enough to participate in democracy. Poll taxes, literacy tests, disenfranchisement, violence, Jim Crow. The Voting Rights Act exists because America once built an entire political architecture around preventing black citizens from exercising a constitutional right. So when I advocate election security, I am not advocating another literacy test. I am not advocating making poor people jump through bureaucratic hoops. I am not advocating making elderly people stand in line for 12 hours. I am advocating suppressing legitimate votes. I'm advocating something much simpler. Make it easy for eligible citizens to vote and hard for ineligible people to cast illegal ballots. Those two objectives are not contradictory. They should be the foundation of election policy. The black voter deserves election integrity too. This is where my argument becomes personal. Black Americans shouldn't have to choose between access and integrity. We deserve both. I don't want anybody stealing a black person's vote. I don't want anybody stealing a white person's vote. I don't want anybody stealing a Latino person's vote. I don't want anybody stealing an Asian person's vote. I don't want anybody stealing an immigrant's vote if that immigrant has become a lawful citizen. The ballot belongs to the eligible voter, period. And when somebody illegally casts a ballot, they aren't merely committing a technical violation, they're potentially canceling out somebody else's lawful political voice. That's why election fraud matters. But let's not exaggerate the evidence. This is where I will depart from some of the loudest voices in my own movement. The New Jersey episode is serious. but serious does not mean limitless. Approximately 6,600 people were improperly registered according to the state, and fewer than 400 were found in its preliminary analysis to have voted. That does not establish that New Jersey elections are generally fraudulent. It does not establish that thousands of illegal ballots change an election, and it does not prove a conspiracy. But it does establish that a supposedly secure election registration system was capable of doing something it absolutely should not have done, and that alone warrants investigation. The question every New Jerseyan should ask: forget Democrat, forget Republican, forget Trump, forget Cheryl, forget MAGA, forget MSNBC, forget Fox News, forget CNN, forget the entire political circus for 5 minutes. Ask yourself, do you trust the system to protect your vote? If the answer is yes, then prove it. Show us the audits, show us the safeguards, show us the chain of verification, show us how the NVC system worked, show us who knew what and when, show us how the approximately 6,600 registrations happened. Show us why the problem wasn't caught sooner. Show us what happened to the ballots cast by people who were improperly registered, and show us how you intend to make sure it never happens again. That's not an extremist demand. That's what accountability looks like. My final word, Governor Cheryl says, when we find a problem, we don't hide it, deny it, or invent conspiracies. We investigate it, we fix it, and we tell the public, fine, I agree. Now let's hold every politician to that standard, including President Trump, Governor Cheryl, Republicans, Democrats, and everybody else. Don't hide it, don't deny it, don't exaggerate it, investigate it. And if the investigation reveals incompetence, punish incompetence. If it reveals negligence, punish negligence. If it reveals intentional fraud, prosecute fraud. If it reveals nothing more than a technical failure, fix the technology. But don't ask ordinary New Jerseyans to simply trust government because government tells them to trust government. Trust is earned through verification. That is the lesson of this entire controversy. And that is why I believe America needs to have a serious conversation about a uniform federal election security system for federal elections. One that protects access for every eligible citizen while establishing consistent national standards for registration, verification, auditing, and transparency. Because here's the truth. Your vote is not a favor from government. It is your voice. And when you walk into that voting booth, you should know that your government did everything humanly possible to make certain that your ballot is counted, and that nobody else's illegal ballot cancels it out. That's not Republican, that's not Democrat, that's not MAGA, that's America. One angry black MAGA general signing off. Peace.